It was the annual charity gala of the GU family, a top-tier elite in the capital's social circle. The dazzling chandeliers cast a nearly viscous, blood-like hue on the Bordeaux red wine. I wore a custom-made black velvet gown that accentuated my cool, pale skin, making me look like a meticulously carved yet gradually cooling piece of white porcelain. As the rightful mistress of the GU family, I sat in the seat of honor that should have been mine, yet beside me sat GU Langzhou's personal assistant, Bai WN. Bai WN was dressed in an interesting choice today, a pure white lace fishtail gown, reminiscent of a white moonlight figure eager to rise in status. She lowered her head, her expression shy and flustered, as she shielded GU Langzhou from a glass of strong liquor. GU Langzhou was drunk, or perhaps, in this atmosphere where alcohol and power intertwined, he had completely indulged in the favoritism he thought he had hidden so well, just as the entire room of business tycoons raised their glasses to congratulate the GU Group on its resounding success in this year's overseas acquisition case. GU Langzhou's slightly unsteady hand, in full view of everyone, reached through the narrow gap between him and me and tightly clasped Bai Wan's hand. His gaze was hazy, carrying a gentle indulgence he had never shown me before. He murmured softly, his voice not loud, yet it carried through the microphone and echoed across the entire silent banquet hall. "Darling, don't drink anymore. It hurts me to see you like this." In that instant, the air seemed to solidify into something tangible. The clinking of glasses and the sounds of toasts that had filled the room came to an abrupt halt. Countless gazes, filled with pity, mockery, curiosity, and schadenfreude, converged on my face like a dense volley of arrows. I could feel Bai Wan's body stiffen for a fraction of a second at that moment. Then, a flush that bordered on defiance spread across her innocent face. Instead of pushing GU Langzhou's hand away, she looked at me timidly, like a startled fawn, her voice soft and dripping with sweetness. "President Su, President GU is drunk. Please don't mind him. He's under a lot of pressure at the company. Maybe he mistook me for you, mistook you for me." I set down the expensive silver fork in my hand, the sound of metal clinking against bone china piercingly sharp in the silence. I leisurely took out a handkerchief, wiped away a non-existent stain from the corner of my mouth, my expression as calm as a stagnant pond. I turned my head to look at my husband of 3 years. GU Langzhou's usually cold and noble face was now flushed with drunkenness, yet his deep-set eyes, even in his intoxicated state, remained fixed on Bai WN. His grip not loosening in the slightest. Whispers and murmurs began to ripple through the surrounding crowd. "Oh my, is this the eldest daughter of the Su family? What a massive loss of face. Who doesn't know that GU Langzhou was forced into this marriage by his family?" Back then, the Su family brought in 40 billion in investment banking funds to save the GU corporation. Mr. GU has been holding a grudge ever since. Look at Bai Wan's attitude. TSK. These days, even an assistant can trample over the mistress of the house. GU Langzhou's cousin, GU Yaro, sat diagonally across and couldn't help but sneer, deliberately raising her voice. "Oh, Sister Wanwan has been working so hard to take care of my brother. My brother is just speaking his mind after a few drinks. Some people, even if they sit in that position, have to see if they have the fate to bear it." Upon hearing this, Bai Wan's smugness was almost impossible to conceal. She even dared to pick up the decanter on the table, pretending to pour me a drink. "President Su, I'll toast you on behalf of President GU, thanking you for all these years of care you've given the GU family." The word care was emphasized heavily, carrying a condescending tone of someone in a superior position. I didn't accept the glass, nor did I even glance at her. I simply lowered my head and continued to look at the unfinished black truffle dish on my plate. It was an incredibly intricate process, requiring precise timing, patience, and the finest ingredients, much like how I had managed this marriage. But now, I felt the dish was so rich it made me sick. "Langzhou, let go," I spoke calmly, my voice not loud, yet carrying the oppressive weight of years of authority. GU Langzhou finally turned to look at me, his eyes as cold as icicles. Not only did he not release Bai Wan's hand, he even pulled her closer into his embrace, his tone stiff and full of rejection. "Su Qingyi, Wanwan got drunk because she was trying to shield me from drinking. As the mistress of the GU family, do you really lack the magnanimity to handle this? Must you cause a scene and make everyone uncomfortable on such an occasion? Cause a scene?" Looking at his face, so full of self-righteousness. I suddenly felt a sense of absurdity. 3 years ago, the GU Group was deeply mired in a debt crisis, even facing bankruptcy and liquidation. It was I, with a full 40 billion in real capital from the Su family, who descended like a divine savior to rescue his pride. Over these 3 years, I lowered my own status, strategizing behind the scenes for him, helping him secure his footing in the boardroom. How does he think he earned that aloof and domineering CEO reputation? It was my capital that built the throne behind him. Yet in his eyes, my tolerance is seen as weakness, my support as something to be taken for granted, while a few words of concern from BWAN have become the salvation he holds dear to his heart. I'm not making a scene. I picked up the steak knife again, skillfully cutting into the now cold steak, placing a piece in my mouth, and chewing it slowly and deliberately. I ate with great relish, even in the mood to savor the aroma of truffles blooming on the tip of my tongue. Since Mr. GU is so fond of calling me wife, then call me a few more times. I swallowed the food, stood up gracefully, and swept my gaze across the room. Those who had been waiting to see me go crazy, to see me hysterical, were all stunned. None of the expected wine-throwing, slapping, or crying and tantrums had occurred. I simply walked up to BWN and looked down at her face, which she prided herself on for its purity. Assistant Bai, since you're so fond of President GU, I'll trouble you to take good care of him tonight. I curled the corner of my lips, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. If you think you can handle the title of Mrs. GU, then by all means, keep up the act. Su Qingyi, what madness are you up to again? GU Lungzhou frowned, looking at me with disgust. I ignored him and turned to the trembling waiter beside me. Please fetch me a coat. The wind here is a bit fishy, and it's giving me a headache. With that, I didn't linger. Under the complex gazes of everyone present, I turned around, steadied myself in my 10-centimeter heels, and strode confidently out of the banquet hall. The moment I pushed open the main door, I didn't look back to see GU Lungzhou's expression, nor did I care whether BWN was secretly gloating. The night wind outside was chilly, dispersing that cloyingly sweet perfume scent. I got into the back seat of the car, and the driver hadn't yet reacted. Madam, President GU hasn't come out yet. Just drive. I interrupted him coldly. I took out my phone, the screen's glow reflecting my expressionless face. I scrolled through the contacts and found that long dormant number, one I only dialed when it came to top-tier business mergers and acquisitions. The phone rang twice before it was answered. President Su, it's so late, what instructions do you have? On the other end of the line, the voice of Chief Financial Officer Lin, my assistant, was steady and alert. I gaze at the neon lights speeding past outside the window, my tone as calm as if discussing tomorrow's weather. Assistant Lin, notify the legal department and the investment committee regarding GU Group's 40 billion yuan strategic investment project. Initiate the emergency withdrawal procedure now, immediately. There is a noticeable pause in breathing on the other end of the line. President Su, if we withdraw now, GU Group's capital chain will break within 48 hours, and their stock price will suffer a devastating blow. As for President GU, he just called his assistant wife in front of the entire Beijing social circle at the banquet. I let out a light laugh, the last trace of warmth in my eyes completely extinguished. Since he wants a gentle and caring wife, let him take his BWN and dream in the slums. I won't pay a single penny to support someone else's mistress. Not 1 cent. Understood, President Su. The liquidation team will be assembled within an hour. I hung up the phone and immediately dialed the second number. Hello, Attorney Bai, please draft a divorce agreement for me. There's only one requirement. GU Lungzhou must leave with nothing, including the house he currently lives in, the car he drives, and even all the project dividends under his name that were funded by the Su Group. I want everything back. The phone call ended, and I closed my eyes. Leaning back against the cushion. GU Lungzhou, do you think your aloof and cold demeanor comes from your integrity? No, it's my money that has built up your confidence tonight. Every time you call out wife, it will be converted into 40 billion, and you'll have to pay it back, bit by bit. Pushing open that heavy villa door made of top-grade black walnut, the entire mansion was as silent as a massive tomb. This was once the home I had meticulously arranged. Every crystal chandelier airlifted from Italy, every famous painting acquired from Sotheby's auction house, even the faint fur fragrance at the entrance foyer, all were personally selected by me to cater to Jiyu Langzhou's cool and indifferent aesthetic. I walked barefoot on the cold marble floor, not turning on the main lights, only lighting a small table lamp beside the fireplace. The orange glow flickered in the darkness, yet it couldn't illuminate the wasteland in my heart. My phone grew slightly warm in my palm. A message from Jiyu Langzhou popped up on WeChat, his first message since the banquet incident, brief and arrogant, carrying a habitual sense of condescension. Wanwan sprained her ankle, so I'm taking her to the hospital first. Go back to the old house and explain tonight's events to Mom, so she doesn't worry, and from now on, at these social occasions, drop that arrogant businesswoman act of yours. I looked at the words on the screen and actually let out a low laugh. Explain, you want me, your legitimate wife, to explain to your mother, who has never liked me, why her son humiliated me in front of everyone. Jiyu Langzhou, I've really spoiled you. You think the 40 billion I gave you was something I begged you to accept, but you've forgotten it's the fuse that could shatter you to pieces. I didn't reply to the message. Instead, I directly muted his number. Assistant Lin, how's the progress? I dialed the work phone again, my voice echoing in the empty living room, cold as a blade. President Su, the legal team has drafted a withdrawal letter overnight based on the founder's moral breach clause in the investment agreement. When the contract was signed, we left a hidden clause. Once the core management of the Jiyu family faces significant negative reputational impact, Su Capital has the right to unilaterally withdraw the investment and reclaim the principal. The video from tonight's banquet has already been captured by the media, although some of it was intercepted by the Jiyu family. Our people have obtained the original footage. Excellent. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, gazing at the bustling night view of the capital outside. It's not just about those 40 billion. Investigate the flow of all the trust funds under Jiyu Langzhou's name. If I recall correctly, that was the joint management fund my father transferred to him when we got married. Since the management has been poor, reclaim it all under Su Trust Management. Understood. Also, Attorney Bai is already on the way and should arrive at your residence in about 15 minutes. After hanging up the phone, I walked into the walk-in closet, which was at least 100 square meters in size. It was filled with Jiyu Langzhou's suits, each one a bespoke piece from Savile Row, and every tie was tied with a Windsor knot by my own hands. I casually pulled out a dark grey jacket. It was his favorite one. Suddenly, I felt nauseous. I've played the role of this gentle, devoted wife for 3 years, so convincingly that I almost believed it myself. I thought that as long as I was outstanding enough, as long as I could support his ambitions, there would always be a crack in his cold heart reserved for me. But reality slapped me hard in the face. In his eyes, my strength was a threat to his pride, while Bai Wan's fragility was the catalyst for his masculinity. Since you find my businesswoman demeanor too imposing, I said to the woman in the mirror, whose gaze was growing colder and sharper, then I'll show you what real capital power looks like. At exactly 1 a.m, the doorbell rang. Attorney Bai entered the living room with 2 assistants, followed by the old butler of the Jiyu family mansion, whom I had specifically invited to witness the proceedings. Miss Su, this is the initial draft of the divorce agreement. Attorney Bai adjusted his glasses and spoke in a businesslike tone. As per your request, the focus is on asset separation. Given that Mr. Jiyu Langzhou engaged in inappropriate behavior with members of the opposite sex during the marriage, which severely damaged the investment reputation of Su Capital, we will demand that he repay the full value of all channel resources invested by Su Capital over the past 3 years. The Jiyu family butler standing nearby turned pale, his voice trembling. Madam, this must not be done. The CEO was just drunk. You'll ruin the Jiyu Corporation this way. It wasn't me who ruined the Jiyu Corporation. It was that one word of his wife. Without even lifting my eyelids, I signed my name cleanly and decisively on the 50-page asset separation document. The sound of a pen scratching across paper seemed particularly solemn in the dead of night. Uncle Wang, please take this agreement back to the old house and tell Jiyu Langzhou and Mrs. Jiyu that I gave him a chance, but he chose by WN himself. I closed the pen, my gaze sharp as a torch. From now on, the security of this villa will be fully upgraded. Apart from my belongings, all the furniture, wine collections, and antiques here will be sealed by the liquidation team before dawn. Because all of these were bought by me, Su Chingy. The old butler opened his mouth but ultimately couldn't utter a word, slinking away with the copy in hand. At 2 in the morning, I felt no trace of drowsiness. I sat on the sofa, watching the real-time monitoring data sent by Assistant Lin. The withdrawal letter from Su Capital had already been sent via encrypted email to all the directors of GU Group half an hour ago. At the same time, I mobilized all my connections in the media circle. I wanted tomorrow morning's financial headlines to read not GU Group achieves a major victory, but scandal at GU Group presidents. Banquet triggers Su Capital's 40 billion yuan massive withdrawal. At that moment, the long silent phone suddenly began to vibrate intensely. It was GU Lungzhou. He had clearly seen the withdrawal letter or received a frantic bombardment from the board of directors. I didn't answer. He called once, twice, 10 times. It wasn't until the 11th call that I leisurely pressed the answer button and hit record. Su Chingy, have you lost your mind? On the other end of the line, GU Lungzhou's usually cool voice turned sharp, angry, even carrying a hint of barely noticeable panic. Withdrawing the investment. Do you have any idea what this means? The stock price will plummet at tomorrow's opening. You're gambling with the future of both families. Future, I chuckled softly, even able to faintly hear Bai Wan's delicate sobs from the other end of the line. GU Lungzhou, haven't you realized it yet? The future of the Su family doesn't need to be tied to a rotting tree like the GU family. Su Chingy, you're taking revenge on me because of the banquet incident, aren't you? I've already explained it was a misunderstanding. One is just a subordinate. Do you really have to go this far, over a mere form of address? You'd destroy years of my hard work. It's not just about a form of address, GU Lungzhou. It's about your muddled heart and your cheap pride. I stood up and walked to the windowsill, gazing at the faint hint of dawn breaking in the east. You enjoy the resources I provide. Yet you betray me in spirit. You think I can't live without you, which is why you dare to trample on my dignity so recklessly. If you think Bai WN is better, then go ahead and see if, without the Su family's 40 billion, you can still maintain that aloof and noble young master facade in front of those profit-driven board members. Su Chingy, listen to me. If you withdraw the order now, I can pretend nothing happened. In a couple of days, I'll take you to the Maldives to make up for our wedding anniversary. No need, I coldly cut him off. Compared to the Maldives, I'm more looking forward to seeing the GU family's stock price hit the circuit breaker tomorrow. By the way, you should stay at a hotel tonight. The door lock code for this house has been changed, and I've already had your luggage packed up and thrown into the garbage disposal. Su Chingy, how dare you? I hung up the phone directly and casually tossed it into the nearby fish tank, watching the phone screen gradually go dark in the water. I let out a long sigh of relief. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I poured myself a glass of strong whiskey. The spicy liquid slid down my throat, as if washing away the grievances of the past 3 years. Outside the window, the sky brightened. Monday had arrived. Today, the financial circle of the capital will witness a tsunami, and I am the creator of this tsunami. GU Lungzhou, since you enjoy calling people wife so much, let your wife accompany you to hell, where you can look up at my height. At 8 o'clock on Monday morning, the usually solemn square in front of the headquarters building of the GU Group was already packed with swarming media and panicked employees. I sat in the top-floor office of the Su Group, holding a cup of Mandheling black coffee. On the 4 surveillance screens in front of me, the movements of the global financial markets were displayed in real time. At 8:30, the stock price of the GU Group opened with a gap down in pre-market trading, plummeting by 8%, a bloody signal of capital flight. President Su, the board of directors at GU Corporation is in an uproar. GU Lungzhou entered the company an hour ago and was reportedly intercepted in the elevator by several waiting shareholders. The scene was quite ugly. Assistant Lin pushed the door open and placed the latest public opinion report on my desk. Additionally, Bai WAN still hasn't realized the severity of the situation. She actually tried to use her connections to get into the CEO's office just now, but our people stopped her outside. I raised an eyebrow. Let's go. It's time to take back what belongs to me. At exactly 9 o'clock, I stepped into the lobby of GU Corporation. This was once the place I knew best, where I had cleaned up GU Lungzhou's messes countless times. But today, I wore a sharply tailored deep purple suit, followed by a uniformed team of Su Corporation's legal and liquidation specialists. the sound of my leather shoes. Striking the floor seemed to declare sovereignty. President Su, you finally arrived. Several senior shareholders of GU Corporation rushed over as if they had found a lifeline. What's the meaning of this withdrawal letter? President GU said it's just a misunderstanding between husband and wife. Please tell Assistant Lin to withdraw the instruction immediately. The stock price is about to hit the circuit breaker. I stopped in my tracks, looking at these shareholders who had often benefited from the Su family's generosity yet secretly mocked me for throwing myself at someone. A mocking smile curled at the corner of my lips. Misunderstanding, I sneered. When Jiu Lungzhou called his assistant wife in front of hundreds of cameras, why didn't he say it was a misunderstanding? When he signed the Su Capital Risk Control Agreement, he should have known his reputation was worth 40 billion. Now, not only will that 40 billion be withdrawn, but I will also audit the flow of every single transaction over the past 3 years. I pushed open the door to the top-floor conference room, which was thick with the smell of tobacco. Jiu Lungzhou was sitting in the main seat, his face alternating between pale and ashen, his tie askew, and Bai Wn was actually huddled in a chair in the corner, her eyes red and swollen, looking as if she had suffered endless grievances. Su Qingyi, have you had enough of this nonsense? Jiu Lungzhou slammed the table and stood up, his usually cold face now flushed with anger. Look at the stock prices outside. You're destroying my life's work, and you're also ruining your own investment, your life's work. I walked straight to the opposite side of the long table, placed my hands on the surface, and stared at him with piercing eyes. Jiu Lungzhou, the rent for this building is paid by the Su family. Your R&D costs are covered by the Su family, and even the chair you're sitting on right now was signed off by me. Su Qingyi, without me, your so-called life's work is nothing but a piece of scrap paper. Just then, Bai Wn stood up weakly, trying to reach out and tug at the hem of my clothes. President Su, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have gotten drunk that night. I made President GU misunderstand. If you're angry, you can hit me or scold me, but please don't take the company's future as a joke. President GU has really worked so hard. Slap, a crisp slap instantly cut off by Wan's sweet-talking. My palm was numb, but my heart felt an unprecedented sense of relief. First, the title President Su is not something an employee of your level should address me by. Second, I took a stack of documents from Assistant Lin and threw them directly at Bai Wan's face. As the president's assistant, you openly embezzled company funds to buy this lace dress worth hundreds of thousands. Even the so-called thoughtful gifts you bought for President GU were charged to the supplementary card I gave Jiu Lungzhou. Bai Wn, how do you think the law will judge this? Bai Wan's face instantly turned deathly pale as she looked pleadingly at Jiu Lungzhou. Lungzhou, I did it for work-related socializing. Enough, I snapped sharply. I turned to look at Jiu Lungzhou, my eyes devoid of any warmth. Jiu Lungzhou, the board of directors has just received my liquidation notice. Given the massive damage to the company's reputation caused by your personal conduct issues, Su's Capital will initiate a full debt recovery. Either you sign this divorce agreement and resignation confirmation now, or we'll see each other in court. I'll make sure you and your assistant face charges of embezzlement and end up in prison together. Su Qingyi, are you really going to be this ruthless? Jiu Lungzhou stared at me intently, his eyes filled with disbelief. Our 3 years of feelings, can they really not compare to a single form of address? Feelings? I laughed bitterly. Jiu Lungzhou, what you gave me was never feelings, it was condescension. How long do you think your aloof, cold, and distant act can last? I used to indulge you, but now, I'm going to strip that facade off you with my own hands. At that moment, a commotion broke out outside. Security personnel had already entered with the liquidation team and began labeling and sealing all fixed assets in the CEO's office. Ms. Su, these coffee machines, artworks, and all the custom furniture in this office were purchased by Su Capital and are now being reclaimed. Assistant Lin's voice was businesslike and cold. Bai Wn watched as the limited edition bag on her desk was taken away and completely broke down, screaming, "How dare you? This was a gift from Mr. GU. Give." I glanced at her coldly. Jiu Lungzhou can't even afford his own suits. I bought them for him. What does he have to give you? His debts. I walked up to Jiu Lungzhou and slammed the divorce agreement against his chest. Sign it, and get out of this office, otherwise, The next people to walk through that door won't be the liquidation team, it'll be the economic crime investigators. Ji Lungzhou stared at the agreement, his hands trembling uncontrollably. Outside the window, GU Group's stock price triggered a second trading halt, the screen awash in green, a final, pitiful tribute to his arrogance. He finally realized that Su Qingyi, who was as gentle as water at home, was not only his wife but also a capital queen who could turn the tables with a flick of her hand, and this queen, he had lost her with his own hands even though they had already torn off the facade. The hypocritical noble family skin of the GU family still tightly enveloped them. On Tuesday evening, I received a call from Gu's mother. On the other end of the line, this usually arrogant mother-in-law's voice was unusually aged and broken. She said that GU Lungzhou's father had been so angry that he was rushed to the emergency room, and the whole family was waiting for me at the old mansion, claiming they wanted to give me justice. Hearing this word from the mouths of the GU family was so ironic it made me laugh. The car drove into the GU family's old mansion as the sky grew heavily overcast. This century-old estate was nestled halfway up a mountain on the outskirts of the capital, with its upturned eaves and corners exuding a decaying sense of authority in the twilight. As soon as I stepped into the main hall, a strong scent of rosewood washed over me. Madame GU sat in the main seat, clutching a string of jade prayer beads tightly. In her hand, GU Lungzhou sat in the shadows of the side seat, looking as desolate as a withered branch, and beside him, to my surprise, sat Bai WN, who should not have been there at all. Even more unexpected was GU Lungzhou's aunt, GU Man, who was holding Bai Wan's hand, whispering comforting words with affection, as if she had already accepted her as one of the family. Qingyi, you've finally decided to come back. Madame GU lifted her eyelids, her tone carrying the usual pressure. After 2 days of making a scene, you've completely disgraced the GU family. Lungzhou was wrong, but he already knows his mistake. When a couple argues, what sense does it make to push family assets away, withdraw the divestment order, then issue a joint statement saying that the banquet was just a bit of fun between you two, and Bai WN was merely an excuse? I pulled out a carved-back chair and sat down on my own, not even bothering to drink the cold tea placed in front of me. Fun, I repeated the word, my gaze coldly sweeping over Bai WN. Mrs. GU, the so-called excuse you mentioned, wasn't it just before you came in, when you were holding your sister-in-law's hand, discussing how to redecorate the nursery here after I get divorced? Bai Wan's face instantly stiffened. She hurriedly waved her hands, tears streaming down her cheeks. President Su, you've really misunderstood. I just saw how hard Lungzhou has been working lately and wanted to take better care of his family. Lungzhou is that what you call him? I slammed the table abruptly, the sound echoing through the empty hall. Bai WN, save those cheap tears of yours. Do you really think someone of your caliber can climb the high branch of the GU family? You probably don't know I've already shattered that savior filter of yours for you. GU Lungzhou finally looked up, his voice hoarse as he spoke. Su Qingyi, that's enough. WN saved me in the fire back then, a debt of gratitude I can never repay in this lifetime. I know you're jealous, but you can't deny her character. Because of that, let alone falsely accuse her of embezzling company funds. Savior. I looked at GU Lungzhou's deeply affectionate yet stubborn expression, finding it utterly ridiculous. I tossed a stack of yellowed documents from my bag, hospital records from the accident GU Lungzhou had 10 years ago. GU Lungzhou, 10 years ago, when you were trapped in the fire at the suburban warehouse, the person who saved you was indeed a young girl, but that girl suffered permanent lung damage from inhaling too much smoke, and she even returned to the countryside before you woke up because her family was too poor. You think Bai WN just happened to be interning at that hospital, just happened to know all the details, and that she's the one. I stared at Bai Wan's face, which had instantly turned ashen, and said word by word, the real savior passed away from illness 3 years ago. I even paid for her tombstone. Bai WN, you've been acting with a stolen script for so many years, have you? Even started to believe it yourself. GU Lungzhou suddenly stood up, gripping the files tightly, the veins on the back of his hand bulging. This can't be. Wanwan said the scars on her arm, that was a hypertrophic suture she had done at an illegal medical aesthetics clinic 2 years ago to win your sympathy. I sneered, cutting him off. As for those public funds, Assistant Bai, Should I read out your transaction records from luxury stores and plastic surgery hospitals in front of your future mother-in-law? Every single one of them was drawn from the reserve funds of the GU Group's R&D projects. The prayer beads in Madame Gu's hands made a crisp sound as the string snapped, scattering emerald green beads all over the floor with a clattering noise. GU Xiaogu, GU Man, hurriedly jumped in to smooth things over. Qingyi, even if the matter of the life-saving benefactor is questionable, withdrawing 40 billion in funding is going to destroy the foundation of the GU family. You're harming yourself too. You're the daughter-in-law of the GU family. What good will it do you if the GU family collapses? Daughter-in-law. I stood up and walked over to the wall covered with portraits of the GU family ancestors. From the moment I signed the withdrawal letter, I ceased to be your GU family's daughter-in-law. I pulled out a dark gold agreement from my bag, the GU family core shares betting agreement that old master GU personally signed 3 years ago when I entered the family. According to the terms of the agreement, if GU Lungzhou fails to maintain positive growth in business reputation during the marriage, the Su family capital has the right to repurchase 30% of the GU family's core shares for 1 yuan, Madam GU. This agreement is a family heirloom and legally protected. Today, I didn't come back for dinner, I came to claim the shares. In front of them, I slammed the GU family's self-proclaimed noble century-old legacy right in the center of the dining table. Su Qingyi, you're trying to leave the GU family without an heir, Mrs. GU trembled with rage, her finger shaking as she pointed at me. No, I picked up my bag and walked toward the door without looking back. It's your GU family that doesn't deserve me. At the doorway, I paused and glanced sideways at Bai Wn, who was slumped on the floor, and at GU Lungzhou, whose faith had crumbled, his eyes filled with fear. GU Lungzhou, you always used to say I reeked of money and didn't understand. Your cold, proud integrity. Now, please hold on to that empty pride of yours and live your noble, austere life with this lying savior of yours. The heavy rain arrived as expected. I opened my umbrella and stepped into the curtain of rain. Behind me was the crumbling clamor and disputes of the GU family's old mansion, while ahead lay a vast expanse of stars that belonged to me alone. The GU family may be able to stomach this last supper, but the price is one they cannot afford after the rain. The lawn of the Beijing golf course was a glaring shade of green. I changed into a crisp white sportswear set, put on a sun hat, and leisurely selected a golf club. President Su, GU Lungzhou is over there. He's been waiting for you for 2 hours, Assistant Lin whispered in my ear. I followed his gaze and saw GU Lungzhou standing anxiously under a sunshade on the distant slope. In just a few days, his once pristine and aloof demeanor had completely vanished. His eyes were bloodshot, and his suit even seemed a bit ill-fitting. Sitting across from him was the toughest nut to crack in Beijing's capital circle, Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan was known for his ruthless methods and unpredictable temperament, and he had always been GU Lungzhou's archrival in the business world. GU Lungzhou's presence here today clearly indicated he was at his wits' end, hoping Lu Yuan would lend a hand to the GU family. As I walked over with my golf club, I happened to hear GU Lungzhou lowering his voice in a plea. Mr. Lu, the fundamentals of GU Corporation are sound. As long as this bridge financing is secured, I'm willing to give up 3 percentage points of equity. Lu Yuan leaned lazily back in his chair, his slender fingers toying with a lighter as he let out a soft scoff. Mr. GU, you need to understand, it's not about whether I want to invest or not. Someone has made it clear that anyone who touches GU Corporation is going against the entire Su capital. Do you think it's worth offending Su Qingyi for just 3 percentage points of equity? Su Qingyi, GU Lungzhou gritted his teeth. Just as he looked up and saw me approaching, his expression in that moment became incredibly complex, filled with humiliation, anger, and even a trace of humble hope. He quickly walked toward me, trying to block my path. Qingyi, do you have to drive me to ruin before you're satisfied? I've already sent Bai Wn away, and I even plan to have her turn herself in, if you withdraw those lawsuits and the divestment order. Can we remarry? I stopped in my tracks, taking a step back in disgust. GU Lungzhou, have you misunderstood something? I smiled slightly and turned to look at Lu Yuan. President Lu, did you bring the contract I asked you to prepare? Lu Yuan stood up, a playful smile appearing on his somewhat roguish face. He pulled a document from his briefcase and handed it to me right in front of GU Lungzhou. Since President Su has spoken, how could I dare to disobey? All of GU Corporation's current outstanding bank debts have been transferred to the asset management company under Su Group. GU Lungzhou's face instantly turned deathly pale. He glared sharply at Lu Yuan. Didn't you say you wanted to discuss financing with me? Let's talk. Lu Yuan spread his hands, his smile bold and unrestrained. But I never said I was representing myself. Mr. GU. This is what you call a dimensional reduction strike. Don't you understand? I opened the contract, my tone as calm as if I were reading a newspaper. GU Lungzhou, originally you only owed the Su family 40 billion, but now, through debt acquisition, 70% of the mortgaged assets of the GU Group, including your core factories and overseas patents, are all held by me as the creditor. You and Lu Yuan set this up together. GU Lungzhou trembled as he pointed at us, his chest heaving violently. Su Qingyi, when you married me 3 years ago, you said you loved me. Was it all a lie? Was it all just to swallow up the GU family today? Love? I laughed as if I had heard the biggest joke in the world. Taking a sudden step forward, my gaze sharp as a blade cutting through his mask. GU Lungzhou, my love was once offered to you like solid gold and silver. It was you who saw it as a shackle, who thought that someone like Bai Wn, weak and full of lies, was your salvation. You keep accusing me of colluding in a scheme, but if you hadn't been so greedy, trying to use Lu Yuan's hand to shake off the Su family's supervision, how would he have ever had the chance to get involved? You handed GU Corporation's last trump card right into my hands. At that moment, the large screen on the golf course suddenly lit up, displaying the financial news broadcast on the hour. Breaking news. The Su Group has officially announced that it has taken over all of GU Corporation's maturing debts and declared the formal breakdown of their cooperative relationship. With bankruptcy liquidation not ruled out, this announcement was like driving the final nail into GU Corporation's coffin. No, GU. Lungzhou stared at the screen, his legs giving way as he collapsed onto the lawn. Those so-called friends who had been watching from a distance, hesitating whether to lend GU Lungzhou a hand, immediately put away their golf clubs and walked away without a second glance the moment they saw the announcement. This is the business world. When you're on top, everyone smiles at you. When you fall, even a stray dog on the street wants to take a kick at you. And that kick, I led the way. I handed the golf club to Assistant Lin and looked down at the man on the ground. GU Lungzhou, you always thought of yourself as a noble, unappreciated official, believing that I, a businesswoman, was full of schemes. Now, I will use these very schemes to send you on your final journey. President Lu, I leave the upcoming asset restructuring to you. I want the name GU to completely disappear from the map of the capital. Lu Yuan raised his champagne glass with a smile. As you wish, my queen. I turned and walked toward the golf cart, never looking back at that fallen figure again. GU Lungzhou, this is only the beginning. I will make you watch as the family's status, reputation, and wealth you take such pride in crumble like sandcastles before the waves, and I am that wave. To evade the debt lawsuits that erupted like a flash flood, Bai Wn actually dared to turn back and seek me out. She arranged to meet me at a private law firm near the Su Group. When I pushed open that cold, frosted glass door, what I saw was no longer the glamorous, pure and seductive goddess from the banquet, but a woman with a sallow complexion and a desperate, almost crazed look in her eyes. Su Qingyi, do you think you've won? Bai Wn slammed several photos onto the table, stolen shots of GU Lungzhou holding her from behind in the study, along with a few edited, ambiguous recordings. She sneered, her voice sharp. If these are released, your so-called elite female CEO reputation will be ruined. All of Beijing will know you're a defeated dog, neglected by your husband and unable to even outmaneuver an assistant. I want you to drop the embezzlement charges against me and give me 50 million, or we'll go down together. I looked at those blurry photos without even frowning. 50 million. I leisurely took a voice recorder out of my bag and pressed the play button. What came out was actually a clear recording of Bai Wn conspiring late at night with the GU family's financial manager on how to transfer the money, along with her confession that she wasn't any savior at all, just happened to have plastic surgery to look like that. Bai Wan's smile instantly froze on her face. Assistant Bai, have you forgotten what I started out doing? I sat down opposite her, my gaze as if looking at an ant. I'm in investment banking. In my world, any little essay without evidence is just scrap paper. And you, in my eyes, aren't even worth scrap paper. When did you record this? She stammered. The first time you entered my office and tried to provoke me with your perfume. I leaned closer to her, my eyes cold and unflinching. Did you really think your clumsy acting could fool me? I just wanted to see how far Jiyu Lungzhou would go for someone like you. Now I see clearly, so you can go where you belong. Just then, the office door swung open, several uniformed police officers filed in. Miss Bai WN, you are suspected of the crimes of job embezzlement and extortion. Please come with us. Bai WN struggled frantically, her nails scraping a harsh sound on the wooden tabletop. She turned and rushed toward Jiyu Lungzhou, who had been hiding in the shadows behind the door. He had actually come too. Lungzhou, save me. I did all this for you. You said you would protect me. Jiyu Lungzhou was in a sorry state at that moment. He looked at the ironclad evidence, then at my expressionless face. Instead of helping Bai WN, he took a few steps back as if avoiding a plague. His once proud aloof demeanor completely crumbled, turning into a kind of almost humble cowardice. Su Qingyi, do you have to be so ruthless? Jiyu Lungzhou's voice trembled. She's just a girl. If you send her to prison, her life will be ruined. When she was ruining other people's lives, did she ever think there would be a day like this? I stood up and looked at him coldly. And you, Jiyu Lungzhou, you've always thought that every decision at Jiyu Corporation was your business talent, and that I was just a cash machine who only knew how to provide money. I took a confidential red-headed document from Assistant Lin and threw it directly in his face. See clearly, for the past 3 years, all of Jiyu Corporation's profitable overseas projects have been carried out through cross-shareholdings and order placements via Su Corporation's global channels, orchestrated by me behind the scenes. Without my endorsement, you wouldn't even have been able to step through the doors of those established capital firms. Jiyu Lungzhou trembled as he flipped through the documents. Each page's signature date precisely stamped on those achievements he had once taken pride in. You've been deceiving me all along. You made me feel like a clown, thinking I was in control of everything. Jiyu Lungzhou's voice carried a deep sense of absurdity. It's not that I deceived you. It's your arrogance that blinded you. I walked to the window, turning my back to him. You enjoyed the halo I brought you, yet deep down, you resented that it shone brighter than yours. That's why you kept Bai WN around, because only in front of that woman, who was full of lies and had nothing, could you find your pitiful sense of control as a man. Jiyu Lungzhou, you don't love her. You only love the illusion that makes you feel powerful. Now, the illusion has shattered. The sound of Bai WN being taken away gradually faded in the corridor, her piercing screams tearing through the silence of the law firm inside the office. Only Jiyu Lungzhou and I remained. He knelt on the ground in despair. The documents he had regarded as symbols of glory scattered all around, like ruins strewn across the floor. Qingyi, I was wrong. I was truly wrong. Give me another chance. Let's start over. I don't want Bai WN anymore. I don't want anything at all. He tried to grab the hem of my skirt. I sidestepped to avoid him, my tone calm and unruffled. Jiyu Lungzhou, you should be grateful that we live in a society governed by the rule of law. Otherwise, given your actions, you wouldn't even have the right to kneel here and beg me. Assistant Lin, please see the guest out. Mr. Gu's current status is not suitable for appearing at Su Corporation's partner law firm. I strode out of the office, the sunlight streaming in through the floor-to-ceiling windows at the end of the corridor and falling upon my shoulders. I didn't look back at the man kneeling in the shadows, because I knew that from this moment on, he had completely lost even the qualification to be my opponent. True satisfaction isn't about watching him suffer in tears, but rather realizing that he no longer stirs even the slightest ripple in my heart. The rain in the capital always falls without warning, a fine, dense drizzle weaving together under the dim yellow streetlights into a hazy, blurred illusion. Outside the Su residence, Jiyu Lungzhou had already stood guard all night. He was no longer the aloof, untouchable nobleman. His expensive tailored suit was soaked through by the rain, clinging tightly to his gaunt back. His once meticulously styled hair now hung disheveled across his forehead, the whole of him exuding a sense of shattered fragility. As if on the brink of collapse, the phone screen kept lighting up. It was his 136th call to me. I sat on the second-floor terrace, swirling half a glass of red wine in my hand, calmly watching the disheveled figure on the surveillance screen. Miss Sue, should we call the police to have him removed? Assistant Lin asked softly from behind me. No need, let him wait. I took the sip of the wine, the sharp taste spreading through my chest. I'll go down once the last bit of his pride is thoroughly drenched by the rain. At 3 in the morning, I finally pushed open the mansion door, holding a black umbrella. The sound of leather shoes stepping into puddles was particularly clear in the silent night. Jiyu Lungzhou suddenly looked up. His eyes, which had always been filled with indifference and disgust, were now brimming with humble hope. He stumbled forward, only to be firmly stopped by 2 tall bodyguards 3 steps away. Chingy, you finally agreed to see me." His voice was hoarse beyond recognition. Trembling violently, I looked down at him from above, the black umbrella covering most of my face, revealing only a pair of cold eyes. Jiyu Lungzhou, what's the point of staying here? Have you signed the divorce papers? I won't sign. I'd rather die than sign. He seemed to have grasped the last lifeline, shouting incoherently, I know I was wrong. I've learned the truth about Bai Wan's situation, and I've sent her away. Chingy, can we start over? I can give up the Jiyu family. I can even work as your assistant at the Su family, as long as you don't leave me. Be my assistant. I let out a low laugh, as if I had just heard some absurd joke. Jiyu Lungzhou, what makes you think the Su group would take in a useless person who can't even understand basic financial statements and only maintains their dignity through nepotism? You said, useless. He froze, his face filled with disbelief. What else would you call it? I took a step forward, the water dripping from the tip of my umbrella splashing onto his leather shoes. For the past 3 years, every one of your self-important strategic moves was actually a setup I laid for you 6 months in advance. How do you think your reputation for being aloof and proud spread? It was me spending on PR to cover up all your mediocrity and arrogance, slapping the label of business prodigy on you. At your core, you're just a canary Su Chingy, carefully raised in a greenhouse. The only problem is, this bird not only wants to fly, it also wants to peck out its owner's eyes. Jiyu Lungzhou was breathing heavily, rainwater streaming down the tip of his nose. His gaze was unfocused, as if all his beliefs had collapsed in an instant. So, you're begging me to remarry you now because you love me? I cruelly tore away the last shred of pretense. No, you love the tailored suit that comes without any effort. You love the respect of being surrounded by people when you go out. You love the Su family matriarch who can solve your troubles at any time. You're just afraid of living a poor life. I'm not. I truly remembered the past. Enough. I coldly cut him off, signaling Lawyer Bai to step forward. Lawyer Bai pulled a stack of documents from his briefcase and spoke in a businesslike tone. Mr. Gu, according to the marital property agreement you signed with MS Su, as well as the reputational damage you caused to Su Capital during your tenure, we are now legally reclaiming all personal property belonging to MS Su. This includes, but is not limited to, the custom-made leather shoes you are wearing, the suit on your body, and all properties and vehicles registered under your name that were purchased with Su Capital's funds. Execute it now, immediately. The bodyguard stepped forward and forcefully removed Jiyu Lungzhou's soaked suit jacket. Standing in the cold wind, he was left wearing only a thin shirt, appearing even more frail and pitiful. This car also belongs to President Su. Assistant Lin pointed to the limited edition sports car by the roadside, which Jiyu Lungzhou had once taken pride in. The driver directly closed the car door and ruthlessly threw his suitcase into the muddy water. Su Chingy, do you have to be this ruthless? Jiyu Lungzhou stared at me intently, his eyes bloodshot. You've stripped me of everything, left me with nothing. Are you happy? Now, happy? I shook my head, turned around, and walked back into the mansion. Jiyu Lungzhou, you think too highly of yourself. Watching you lose everything doesn't make me happy. I just feel it's only right, like throwing away a bag of expired, foul-smelling garbage. I only feel relieved. Oh, by the way, I stopped in my tracks and turned back to deliver the final blow. You've always prided yourself on being noble and looked down on my so-called stink of money. Starting tomorrow, you can go apply to those grassroots companies you once despised. Oh, I forgot to mention, every slightly reputable company in the capital has already received insider information about your dismissal from the Su Group and the pursuit of accountability. Your so-called cold, detached life has only just begun. I closed the mansion door. Outside, Jiyu Langzhou's desperate wails mingled with the sound of rain in a dissonant symphony. Inside, the warm, spring-like glow of the lights enveloped everything that night. I slept soundly. I knew that the Su Qingyi who had once clung to Jiyu Langzhou, trying to find a trace of warmth in his eyes, had already died in that heavy rain, and I have been reborn. The morning sunlight filtered through the blinds on the 60th floor of the Su Group's headquarters, casting a brilliant golden shimmer across the floor. I stood before the massive floor-to-ceiling window, looking down at this familiar yet unfamiliar city. Just yesterday, the Su Group officially completed the bankruptcy acquisition of the GU Group. The once arrogant GU Group sign, which had represented the confidence of the traditional wealthy families, had just been removed from the top of the building by workers and replaced with the bold, powerful characters of Su Group, President Su. The opening ceremony of the Global Technology Summit will begin in 20 minutes. It's time for you to leave. Assistant Lin held a tablet, her voice tinged with barely concealed excitement. I turned around, and the woman in the mirror was dressed in a minimalist dark green silk shirt paired with sleek trousers, her hair meticulously styled. Gone was the deliberately restrained gentleness of my married life. Now, my eyes held the sharpness of a capital hunter. As I stepped into the summit venue, nearly 1,000 industry giants and media reporters in the room rose to their feet in unison. The applause thundered, but this time, it was no longer because I was Mrs. GU, it was because I was the sole ruler of this business landscape. President Su, I heard that after acquiring the GU Group, you completely overhauled the underlying structure, even retaining some basic positions. A reporter on the sidelines attempted to interview. I paused, smiling gracefully. The Su family has never kept idle people, nor wasted talent. Every position has its most suitable master. On the path I had to take to the podium, I saw several temporary workers sweating profusely as they moved materials. One of them was hunched over, moving clumsily, being loudly scolded by the foreman. Hurry up, Jiyu Langzhou. Do you still think you're the former CEO who sat in an office? Here, if you can't move things, get out. My steps faltered slightly. Jiyu Langzhou was wearing a cheap grey work uniform. His once slender hands, which had played the piano and signed contracts, were now covered in dust and rope marks. Hearing the noise, he instinctively looked up, and his gaze met mine. In that moment, I saw the deathly stillness in his eyes, and after realizing it was me, an overwhelming shame that made him wish he could vanish into the ground. His lips trembled, as if he wanted to call out my name, but under the watchful eyes of the crowd and countless cameras, he ultimately just lowered his head, gripping the edge of the cargo box tightly. I did not linger, nor did I spare him even a single extra glance. I walked straight up to the podium. The spotlight shone on me as I spoke into the microphone, my voice calm yet powerful. Today, I stand here not to reflect on the success of the Su family, but to define the rules of the future. In these rules, only the strong and the clear-minded have the right to speak of dignity. The applause thundered from below, and I could feel a gaze filled with regret and despair fixed intently on me from some dark corner. After the speech, I walked back to the lounge. Assistant Lin followed and asked in a low voice, President Su, regarding Jiyu Langzhou, given his history of breaching contracts, we could even refuse to hire him for temporary outsourced work. Should I have him dismissed? No need, I replied, taking a sip of champagne. Let him stay at Su Corporation. I want him to look up at this building every day, to watch how I double the assets he once squandered, and to see how the woman he once looked down upon stands at a peak he can never reach. The best revenge is not to make him disappear, but to let him witness firsthand how shattered and pitiful his life becomes after losing me. I set down the cup and walked to the window. The demolition of the GU Corporation building was still ongoing. The place that had once held 3 years of false memories between him and me was gradually turning to dust. At that moment, Lu Yuan pushed the door open. Dressed in an elegant suit, he held a new merger proposal in his hand, his eyes carrying a rare hint of admiration. Congratulations, President Su, you are far more captivating now than when I first met you. I curved the corner of my lips and gently clinked glasses with him. Mr. Lu, this is just the first step in Su Group's global expansion. As for those outdated, decaying old matters, let them remain in the ruins. When I walked out of the lounge, I passed by that corridor again. Jiyu Langzhou was struggling to lift a heavy billboard. sweat trickling down his pale cheeks. Lacking strength, he stumbled and fell to his knees. The sound of his knees hitting the floor clearly audible. I brushed past him, stirring a cool breeze of perfume. He didn't even dare to look up at me at that moment. I was completely at peace. The Su Qingyi who used to be anxious over his every glance had finally completed her final rebirth amidst this brilliant light. Jiyu Lungzhou, this is only the first day of your remaining life in decline. As for me, I have already reached the mountaintop in the deep autumn of the capital. The wind carried a sharp chill. I sat outside the VIP ward on the top floor of the private hospital, flipping through a cross-border e-commerce merger and acquisition proposal. At the end of the corridor, the originally silent air was torn apart by a series of hurried and chaotic footsteps. President Su, Jiyu Lungzhou, he's had an accident. Assistant Lin walked over with a complicated expression. Still holding a blood-stained briefcase. Half an hour ago, I was attending a ribbon-cutting ceremony at the Su Group building when an extreme investor, who had lost everything due to the collapse of the Jiyu family, rushed toward me on stage with a knife. At that critical moment, Jiyu Lungzhou, who had been moving background panels offstage, humble as dust, suddenly charged forward like a madman and took the fatal blow for me. Through the thick glass of the ICU, I saw the man lying on the hospital bed. His face was pale, almost transparent. With thick bandages wrapped around his chest, the once proud aloof aura he had carried was now reduced to a fragile, decaying state. The doctor said the knife tip almost pierced his heart. Assistant Lin added, in a low voice, the first thing he asked after waking up was whether you were frightened. President Su, he seems to want to use his life to earn your forgiveness. I closed the file and walked to the window. Outside the ward, the withered leaves of late autumn were swept up by the wind, hitting the glass with a dull, monotonous sound. Forgiveness, I murmured to myself, a faint, mocking smile tugging at the corner of my lips. 2 hours later, Jiyu Lungzhou woke up, seeing me sitting by the bedside. A nearly frantic, rekindled light flashed in his eyes. Struggling, he tried to reach for my hand, his parched lips moving with difficulty. Qingyi, I'm just glad you're safe. I finally managed to protect you this time. I didn't move, letting his outstretched hand hang stiffly in mid-air. Jiyu Lungzhou, isn't the price for this bitter flesh scheme a bit too high? I spoke, my voice colder than the late autumn rain. His hand trembled violently, his eyes instantly dimming with disbelief. You think this is a scheme? Qing, I really just wanted to save you. I remembered when we first got married, you used to protect me like this too. Remember the past. I abruptly stood up, my gaze sharp as a torch, staring into his pleading eyes. Remember when you called by WN wife at the banquet? Or remember how you took it for granted to squander the Su family's 40 billion? Yet in your heart, you thought I reeked of money. Jiyu Lungzhou, don't talk to me about memories. Now, for me, they're not warmth, they're humiliation. I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. He closed his eyes in agony, tears seeping from the corners into his temples, mingling with the scent of medicine, making it all the more desolate. Qingyi, I'll give you my life. Can that offset the 40 billion? Can it make you look at me one more time? Your life isn't worth 40 billion. I calmly opened the bills handed over by Assistant Lin, placing them one by one beside his pillow. This is today's surgery fee, the care fee for the top floor ward, and the civil compensation for that investor just now. Jiyu Lungzhou, I've paid it all for you. Why? He stared blankly at those bills. Because 3 years ago, when I had just taken over the Su family business and was in a car accident, you happened to pass by and casually sent me to the hospital. Even though that day you were only rushing to meet by WN, even though you left without waiting for me to wake up, I've remembered this debt. For 3 years, I leaned down and whispered softly in his ear, now, this stab repays that favor from back then. From this moment on, Su Qingyi owes Jiyu Lungzhou nothing. Not money, nor feelings. No, don't do this. He struggled to sit up, the wound bleeding again from the violent movement. Large patches of red bloomed on his white hospital gown, a shocking sight. He wailed like a child who had lost the whole world, with none of the cold, aloof demeanor he once had. But as I watched this scene, my heart felt no more ripples, and I even found it somewhat noisy. I turned around and strode toward the door of the hospital room. Mr. Su, are we really not going to take care of him anymore? Assistant Lin asked softly at the door. He has the rest of his life to live, a life struggling in the mud. in regret, in endless mediocrity. I put on my coat and straightened my collar. As for my future, it doesn't need to be adorned with such a blood-stained memory. When I walked out of the hospital, the rain outside was falling harder and harder. I drove to a cemetery on the outskirts of the city, where a tombstone stood. There was no name on it, only a line of text engraved, to Su Qingyi, who died in marriage. I bent down and placed a bouquet of pure white lilies. Jiyu Langzhou, do you think taking a knife for me makes you devoted? No, that's just your self-indulgence because you can't accept the fall from grace. As for me, I had already buried the part of myself that would be moved by you in the ruins of that banquet. Belated affection is indeed cheaper than grass. Today marks the 560th day I have stood at the top of the Su Group building. All traces that once belonged to the Jiyu family have long been completely erased, replaced by a futuristic glass dome. Standing at the edge of the open helipad, beneath my feet lies the ceaseless flow of lights across the entire capital, converging into a golden river. In that moment, I felt as though I were stepping on the pulse of the era. President Su, this is the final report. Assistant Lin stepped forward, his tone composed. Bai Wan's second trial verdict has been delivered. With multiple charges combined, she received 10 years. As for Jiyu Langzhou, after being discharged from the hospital, he sold the Jiyu family's last ancestral home and now works as a loader at a foreign trade warehouse on the border. I heard that every day after work, he buys an outdated financial newspaper and stares at your photo for a long time. I took the report and casually tossed it into the nearby shredder. The sound of the paper being shredded was crisp and satisfying, as if drawing the final period on that absurd chapter of my life. What does it matter if he stares? The me in the photo is beyond his reach now, I spoke calmly, turning to walk toward Lu Yuan, who was approaching at a leisurely pace. Lu Yuan wasn't wearing his usual aggressive suit today. Instead, he had on a casual trench coat and was holding 2 glasses of exceptionally fine vintage champagne. He handed one to me, his gaze deep as he looked toward the distant skyline. Su Qingyi, until the very end, Jiyu Langzhou believed you took revenge on him out of hatred, but I know you never hated him. Hatred requires effort, and you simply formatted him. I gently clinked glasses with him, the crisp sound scattering in the wind. Mr. Lu, you're mistaken. I didn't format him. I formatted the part of myself that was attached to him. I used to think that becoming Mrs. Jiyu was the ultimate medal of my life, but now I understand it was just a beautiful shackle I put on myself. Just then, the last glimmer of the setting sun sank below the horizon, and the entire city was instantly illuminated by neon lights. I closed my eyes, feeling the cold wind at this height. I thought of myself 3 years ago, Su Qingyi, who kept her head down pretending to eat at the banquet, her heart shattered but still maintaining her composure. Su Qingyi, who waited humbly in the rain for Jiyu Langzhou to come home. That version of her is truly gone. He died in that misplaced term wife, in the decision to withdraw 40 billion in funding, and in countless late nights spent poring over documents by lamplight. And now, standing here, is a brand new life. What are you thinking about? Lu Yuan asked. I'm thinking that the world is truly vast. I opened my eyes, their reflection filled with the myriad lights of countless homes, yet no longer holding anyone's shadow, so vast that once you stand high enough, the loves and hatreds that once tormented you look like dust on the ground. You can't even be bothered to sweep them away, because with a gust of wind, they scatter. I tilted my head back and downed the champagne in one gulp. Not far away, the Su family's private jet had already started its engines, the roar of the propellers churning the air deafening. That was the starting point of my journey to Europe to negotiate the next $100 billion project, Jiyu Langzhou, by WAN, and that prison called marriage would all shrink into a tiny black dot at the edge of my vision as the plane ascended, until they completely disappeared into the clouds. For the rest of my life, I would be accompanied by the might of capital, and the journey to the stars and seas still lay ahead. Only, without you. I picked up my suit jacket and strode toward the boarding ladder, my high heels tapping out a resolute rhythm on the tarmac. The wind at the mountaintop was strong, but the view was truly magnificent.